Welcome to Footy in Focus for another week. If you're watching your sets and you're saying, where is the beautiful Kat Haddad? Well, apologies, it's Charlie White here jumping in for her. And I'm joined as always by Isaac Issa. How are you, Isaac?
Mate, you know what? I was a bit worried there for a little bit
Yeah.
because I didn't have Kat with me today. But you've come in clutch for us. So thank you for stepping in for Kat, who couldn't be here today. Fortunately, she got sacked. So
I'm in now. That's I get it. They say I get in where water can't.
Yeah.
And I've done it with this podcast as well.
But no, it's good. We had a big weekend of footy, a lot of upsets this weekend, a lot of which we'll get into. But it's been a good week. How you going, man?
Mate, going good. Great day of footy today, obviously Sunday. I did tip the Titans, but I didn't expect them to put 54 or 52, whatever they ended up. 52 they put on the Eels. That was embarrassing for Parramatta.
Yeah.
And then the Tigers, they are maybe a top 8 team. We're going to talk about that a bit later. But
Yeah, I know you're starting to believe now, but before we get into the Tigers and what they're doing, I need to just start off with my moment of the week. Flaxxy, I hope you've got the Doggies jersey behind me. The Dogs have downed Penrith. That was my moment of this week, which should take no one by surprise. The Dogs have defeated the unbeatable Penrith Panthers, heralded as the greatest team of all time after a 5-0 start, I think it was. But the Dogs just came through and pulled off one of the biggest upsets that I've ever seen, personally. Yeah. I don't know about you, but it was an incredible showing, a showing of resilience and obviously a massive bounce back over the last couple of weeks. Yeah. That had to be my moment of this week.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, it was an incredible performance, especially the fact that they had the ambush. They ambushed Penrith. They went 16-0 up, and then Penrith came right back into the game. At that point, I'm like, all right, it's a lay down misère. Penrith run away with this and dominate this game. But the fact that they were able to wear that big punch from Penrith and fight back and stay with it, like it really made me reconsider the Dogs and where they're at against the big teams. Like, they've had a shaky start to the season, but I think they've got enough where if they're in a big game, they can beat the heavyweights. And I think because of that, I don't think they're going to win the premiership this year. But if the Dogs are in the grand final, that wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, I think that we've seen it with a lot of teams that start the year where they do struggle to wrestle back momentum when it's not swinging their way, and the Dogs have been one of those sides, unfortunately for them. But they proved, this week that they can wrestle back that momentum when odds are stacked against them. At the end of the day, when you've got the Penrith Panthers starting to pounce on you, and I think it was a 4-point lead heading into the break. To be able to not only wrestle back the momentum after losing it, but to go on to win by, I think it was 16 points. It showed a lot of faith in the systems that they've got in place there, the players that they've got around them, and the fact that they can beat these heavyweights. So I'm probably with you on they're probably not up there for the premiership threats. But again, there's a lot of teams that I thought would be in there that aren't at the moment. So it's definitely an interesting one. But a team that you also think is in the hunt, at least for the finals. Yeah. Talk to me, Charlie. What's your moment of the week?
Well, I can't call them premiership contenders, the West Tigers, but that's the moment of the weekend for me. I mean, it was a top 4 clash, technically a top 4 clash.
Yes, it was.
Tigers against the Newcastle Knights, and the Tigers just blew the Knights off the park completely. I think they scored, what was the score at halftime? It was 28 points to 4 at halftime. And the feeling around the club, I'd already fallen for Benji Ball. I'd already fallen in love with it. I love what they're doing at the moment. I love the swagger they're playing with. I love how much love they have for Benji. Like, you can tell how connected this team is. I don't think there's another team in this competition that has as good a chemistry and connection as this West Tigers playing group. They just seem to all love each other, and they play like it as well. They play fun footy. And what Jock Madden's done coming into that team as well, just adding a layer of intelligence to that football side. I think it's a really tough call now what they do when Luai comes back. And because I think Jock Madden needs to stay in that team. And maybe you try and move Dewey to the centres perhaps. But for me, the Tigers, I will say this. I guarantee they will play finals in 2026. I've seen enough.
Bold call.
I've seen enough.
You guarantee they break the 15-year drought and they make finals this year.
I guarantee it. Watch them now lose 10 games in a row because I've said that.
You just cursed Benji Ball.
Yeah, but I love what they're doing, and I think they're a finals team. And yes, the Storm, the Broncos, the Dolphins, they're all going to fight back. Maybe the Canberra Raiders as well. They're probably going to jostle back. And yes, it's early days, but I just think I've seen enough that they've got quality, classy players, and they've got a bit of depth. Like losing Luai last year.
Oh, that would have been
a line through them. It would have been a line through them.
Yeah.
And they've also lost Taylor May earlier. Like, I just think they've got enough to make finals this year.
Yeah, I think, and it's a really interesting point, I guess, the discussion around how connected they are and how much they love Benji. And I've spoken about it on here at times this season where every single time I go to Tigers, whether it's just for a media day or to one of their games, to see the way that the players interact with Benji is unlike any club that I've seen, at least me personally. There's very few coaches I see dapping up their players and joking around with them and honestly carrying on like one of the boys. And he genuinely does, but you can tell they respect him as well, which I think, and perhaps I'm wrong, but I think Benji probably would have struggled with finding that balance in the opening kind of season or two of his coaching career. But it seems like he's found that balance between friend and coach.
Yeah. And that's a balance that one of his coaches was able to, or is still able to, like, ride that balance so well as Wayne Bennett. So Wayne Bennett, Benji was obviously coached by Wayne Bennett, and I think that style of connection with the guys, he's obviously looked at what Wayne Bennett has been able to do. And like Wayne Bennett, people probably don't know this, but he is the guy that like sits at the back of the bus with all the larrikins in the team and would sit there and share stories and want to hear what the larrikins had been up to on the weekend. And he is like one of the boys, Wayne Bennett. So I think I just really love what the Tigers are doing this year. And Benji's grown so much as a coach. Like, I think you're right. I think he probably struggled with that balance. You heard those stories about, he put a shot on Dewey and whether that was just the Tigers were in the headlines and anything that happened there was bad. But you did hear stories that like maybe Benji wasn't taking it seriously enough. Maybe Benji wasn't the right guy. And everyone who doubted Benji Marshall's been proven wrong already.
Well, he is... Listen to him speak, and he is an NRL head coach. There's no doubt about it. I think that there were question marks around, I guess, how ready he was for that role and how mature he was. Like, realistically, like, he played NRL not too long ago. I think he retired in, was it 21?
Yeah.
So there were question marks for valid reason, but listen to him speak now and you can see why he's won that locker room over.
Yeah, definitely. I worked with him at Triple M. When he first retired, when he started at Added Media, and he was a pleasure to work with. I think media lost out by him going to coach.
Mate,
but
he's a character.
Yeah, he is.
He is a character. There's very few coaches who, especially with a journo who's, well, journo in general, a lot of the coaches are very hesitant on journos and people from the media, but he always wants to have a joke around when I'm over there, and he always is open for a chat, which is very refreshing because you can definitely understand where some coaches would be apprehensive, especially when their club is known for being in the headlines a lot.
Yeah. Well, he still doesn't pick up the phone calls for journos, does he? Like, every journo I speak to, they try and get a hold of Benji, and Benji will just brush them. He just brushes everyone.
He's a tough one to win over.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny because this year was the first year that I met Benji, and I've spoken to him a few times, and he's got a few funny nicknames for me that I won't say on here, but and then I went up to him once and I was like, so is this going to stick for the whole year? He goes, not if you write something shit. And I was like, okay, noted. I'm going to stay on your good side. So he's definitely... he's aware of the space and that his words hold weight in the media space, but at the same time he wants to give it that opportunity. So I'm not surprised to hear that he's a bit apprehensive with journos and the media and stuff. But
well, he's even so I worked with him, super got on with him really well, and then I haven't been able to get anything out of him at all in terms of like trying to call him to come on a show and stuff like that. He's just brushed everything. Like he's not going out. He's not going to be that kind of coach who goes and uses the media to play
Not
his
at all.
game for him. He's just going to rely on the results of the footy club.
We
And
brought Benji Ball up to him the other day, and
Yeah.
he was like, "I hate it. Don't say that to me. I don't want to hear it." And I was like he literally doesn't want any of the novelty that comes
Yeah.
with media whatsoever. He doesn't want the hype. He doesn't want any of it. He literally just wants to get his team out on the field every week and win.
and he's doing that.
And he's doing it.
Yeah.
So
great to
I don't
see.
blame you for picking that for your moment of the week.
I reckon some people's highlights from the weekend probably would have been the great man Flaxxy here. Getting one of the worst haircuts I've ever seen in my
If
life.
anyone hasn't seen our producer Flaxxy's hair, go to his Instagram, Flaxxy. It's
Disgraceful.
It's awful. It's awful. So funny. So Kat is actually stuck in Gold Coast at the moment. Her plane's been delayed. So which is why we've gotten the awesome Charlie White with us. But there was a bit of chat around getting Flaxxy to do the hosting. But I just didn't want to have that hair on here, and I didn't
you can't
want to
broadcast that hair.
I can't.
You
No,
can't film it. It's not good for the brand.
I'm pretty sure Spotify would have taken the video down.
Definitely.
Taken it, like it would have all been down.
Yeah.
So
it would have been the end of the podcast.
yeah, it would have.
Yeah.
That's it. And it would probably a lawsuit as well
Yeah,
from Felice
absolutely.
Kafusi. So for those of you who haven't seen it, please go over to his Instagram and if go if you dare. But that was definitely a highlight as well.
Absolutely. I want to ask you about the Dragons and first of all, Jaden Sua.
Yes. So an interesting one that broke over the weekend on Saturday morning, which is interesting because you don't really get a lot on a Saturday. Like normally we're getting into the games and but we got some news via, I think it was the Daily Telegraph. It was Michael Carianis and Brent Reed from the Daily Telegraph who reported that Jaden Sua is set to quit the Dragons and join the Parramatta Eels from 2027. Now, I believe he had a player option heading into next year. He's decided that he wants to depart the club and take his talents over to the Eels. Interestingly enough, it comes amid a contract negotiation freeze over at the Dragons. So the club was in the process of negotiating a few extensions with a few players. They froze all talks. And as they frozen the talks, Jaden Sua has made the call to change clubs, which is obviously heartbreaking for Dragons fans. He's been arguably their best player for quite a few years now.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's making the move over to Parramatta.
Do you know what his player option was worth?
I believe it sat around $700,000 a year.
Okay.
So he was on a fair wicket, and obviously was highly regarded over there as well. Now, reports have come through that he actually texted his teammates via WhatsApp on Saturday morning, saying that he would be departing the club. The club then later announced that he would be leaving. Now, we caught up with Jason Riles, Parramatta head coach, literally an hour after this dropped and asked him about it. Surprise to no one, he was not willing to talk about it, which is completely fair. But from talking to a few people around the club and around him, it seems that if he was to sign with them, it would be for next year. There's probably very little chance of an early release at this stage. But yeah, it's a huge move for Parramatta. They get this 28-year-old who's in the prime of his career, obviously played Origin as well, and he's really going to bolster their forward pack. Now, what that means for a guy like Kelma Tuolangi, who I believe is off contract at the end of this year, remains to be seen.
Because they love Kitione Kartonga, don't they? They see him as a long-term back rower.
Yeah, and I don't blame them. Like a lot of people forget he was Kotoga was learning under Viliami Kikau at one stage, and Kikau took him under his wing for a couple of years there, and you're seeing that pay dividends now. Obviously, Parramatta are struggling at the moment, but he has been one of their highlights over the last 12 months. So I believe that they see him as a long-term prospect, so probably leaves Kelma as the odd man out, but haven't heard too much around that at the moment.
Do you think this is going to lead to more players departing the Dragons? Because obviously on that list, you've got Tyrell Sloan, I believe Blake Laurie, obviously Luciano Leilua as well. A few of the big dogs. I think Setu 2 maybe, or Christian 2 Piloto. I know one Christian 2 Piloto is.
Yep.
Do we think some of those guys could leave as well?
Yeah, and I think that a lot of it's going to do with a major reshuffle over the club, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit later in how they're going to, I guess, move forward as a club when we get to our club mail. But looking at, you know, some of those players that you just mentioned, there is a very real chance that we see at least half of them leave. I know that Tyrell Sloan, I believe he was shopped to the Super League last year. I think Penrith were also floated at one point. And he obviously hasn't been highly regarded by Shane Flanagan over there. And there were a few other guys over there. Obviously, you've got Luciano Leilua, who's surprisingly been one of their best players this year, and obviously their fittest after losing, I think,
20 kilos or
20 kilos, something crazy in the off season. So,
which is also like, if you're a rugby league first grader, you shouldn't have to lose 20 kilos over an off season to get in shape, especially when you're someone as highly paid as Luciano Leilua. And it just screams of, oh, I'm off contract, so I better lock in.
Well, you wouldn't see it at the Melbourne Storm or the Penrith Panthers, which I think points to why the Dragons have been struggling for so long.
Definitely.
You wouldn't see, you know, a Liam Martin feel the need to shed that much weight in his pre. And look, it's good. It means that obviously he's lifting his standards, but you're right. It's the timing of it is very convenient as well. So it's definitely one where the Dragons have some real tough decisions to make. I can't imagine they were super keen on losing Jaden Sua. I know obviously they probably want to play around with their cap a little bit. I don't think Jaden Sua was one of the players they were very open to losing.
Yeah.
And if he was, I'd be very concerned because he's probably been their best player for the last 3-4 years.
Yeah,
so,
100%. It's been interesting, the comments. The Dragons fans have been a bit mixed on it, reading the comments online. A lot of Dragons fans are happy to see the back of him, and then a lot of Dragons fans just think this is Shane Flanagan's nail in the coffin, and this is a sign that now he has to go, now they're losing players. But a lot of other big moves, or just speculated moves over the weekend. Jackson Purdue, though, that is a done deal.
Yeah, so Jackson Purdue extends until into the next decade, 2030, which, again, and I'm itching to get to our club mail section, but we'll get to that. But we'll speak for
Stay patient, Dragons fans.
Channeling our Kempy here. Jackson Purdue has extended with the North Queensland Cowboys, which is obviously a massive get for the North Queensland Cowboys, who have been somewhat in limbo in terms of retaining Jackson Purdue over the last few months. Now, we obviously know the Perth Bears have been looming as a potential option for him. There have been a few other clubs as well. I believe the Dragons at one point were also keen on his services. To be fair, why wouldn't they?
Who wouldn't be? Yeah.
He's a freak. He can play center, he can play in the halves, he can play fullback, and he can play them all at an elite level. But it looks like he will be remaining in Townsville for a little while longer.
I think it's 4 years, $3 million. So good money for him, but also it means he's going to play fullback by the sounds of it, because they basically tapped Scott Drinkwater and said, mate, if you can get a deal, you're free to go. I think he was signed until the end of 2027, but he could be a great signing for some other club.
Yeah, absolutely.
Potentially the Dragons, you think?
Well, we're looking at Scott Drinkwater now, and they have been circled as the likeliest destination for Scott Drinkwater. Now, Scott Drinkwater, who was officially told by the Cowboys this week that he can negotiate with rival clubs
for next year, is that right? They want him for the end of this year. Cool.
Yeah, for next year. And you'd have to imagine that it would be you'd need a player swap for him to go anywhere this year.
Yeah.
Now, the Dragons have been, floated as the front runner for his services. The Perth Bears have also been floated as a potential suitor for him. Now, I reported for ESPN on Saturday that the Dragons have actually submitted a formal offer to Scott Drinkwater, which is a massive one, obviously, but they haven't responded to it as of yet. So we actually spoke about it on last week's podcast about how reports of Scott Drinkwater signing with the Dragons weren't true. At the time, they weren't true. He hadn't had any conversations with them. He hadn't signed with them, and he still hasn't signed with them now. But things have progressed. A week is a long time in rugby league.
Bloody oath it is.
What we were talking about on Monday is very different to what we're talking about on Sunday. So at the moment, the Dragons are looking like the front runner for his services, but the Perth Bears are reportedly looming as well.
It's interesting. So the Perth Bears, they haven't got a marquee player. Now, I would love to see the NRL, and I said this on the buy round during the week, give the Perth Bears a 25% bonus on their salary cap because they're not getting the players in that they need. And also, there's no point of us expanding into Perth and having a rubbish team go there. And that's what it's looking like at the moment. At the moment, it looks like a bottom four roster. The reason I'd want to see them give 25% is because now a guy like Scott Drinkwater becomes available. And Scott Drinkwater's he's probably not even a top 10 fullback in the competition. but he's one of the best attacking players. He's got a lot of flair, and he's at least a marquee signing. So if Perth Bears have 25% extra salary cap, they can go and give someone like Scott Drinkwater $1.2 million a year and basically force him to go there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas now, because they haven't got any advantage whatsoever, he's probably going to end up in the Dragons, I guess, is what the sounds. I know he's very close to Val Holmes, and they've got a business together and things like that. But that's why I'd love to see the NRL do something. And I know it's easier said than done, but give the Perth Bears an extra 25% of the salary cap so that when players like this become available, they can get them and they can build a competitive roster.
Well, my question to you, because a lot of people have, I guess, discussed the lackluster recruiting of the Perth Bears over the last, I believe it's been around 6 months now since they were officially allowed to start signing players. When the Dolphins first came through, I don't know if they had a marquee signing.
No, they didn't. But they were able to get someone like Jesse Bromwich early on. And that's still, even though at the time he was definitely past his prime, it's still one of the greatest front rows of the NRL era. It's still someone who can then help attract other players and help build a culture of the club.
That's true.
And like Liam Henry's a good signing, but like he hasn't played really, has he, this year? And it's not like Penrith are really missing him. Any decent enough front rower in the Penrith system is going to look okay. He's not all. He's a young player as well. He's not going to go there and drive the standards and help recruit other players. And like even they've given Wishart a 5-year deal with a player option for the 5th year. Like that's wild. Wishart is like a role player at best. Like so, yeah. I'd love to see them do something because also they haven't. I don't think they've appointed the right people. Like Mal Meninga hasn't been an NRL first grade coach since 2001. So the game might have passed him by now. Then you've got David Sharp, who now might even get punted already. They're talking about he's coming from the AFP and he's your head of football, and then a CEO who is basically a failed news exec. Like he was running Channel 7 News and putting horoscopes on the news and putting stand-up comedians, and it was a disaster. It didn't rate very well. So it's like they've put 3 guys who are not, I was going to say not rugby league. That's not correct. They put 2, like every appointment has question marks around it.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas you look at what Papua New Guinea's done, they've got the best free agent coach, Willie Peters. I think that's hard to argue. And they've got basically double the salary cap. So we've looked after one expansion team really well, but then we're not looking after the other expansion team, which I find bizarre.
I think the NRL has gone into this whole Perth Bears thing with a little bit too much confidence in, one, the weight that the Bears hold as a name, and 2, the weight that Mal Meninga holds. Both of which were prominent long before majority of these players were around.
100%. And that's what I said at the time. And like, it's no disrespect to Mal Meninga.
Not at all.
But Mal Meninga is obviously one of the greatest players of all time. But he doesn't have the same level of influence over someone like, I don't know, let's just pluck around names, Samuel Afinu from the Tigers. Like he's a young player. Like I'm 30. I never saw Mal Meninga play.
Yeah,
and I would be an older player in the NRL. So like this like influence of Mal, I think, was way overstated.
Yeah, I think in NRL as well, and not even just on the field or even in the coach's box, but in media, in the world of rugby league, we probably put a little bit too much emphasis on the whole history of the game, where realistically guys like you and me weren't around to watch Mal Meninga, weren't around to watch these guys. Wayne Bennett is obviously an outlier just because he's been dominating for so long. But yeah, a guy like Samuel Afenu would prefer to play for a Benji Marshall than a Mal Meninga because he grew up watching him. And you can see the connection Benji has with his players. And I think that's more where we're going. I think younger coaches is going to be more of the future. And you see in American sports as well. If you go look at places like the NFL and the NBA, it's a lot of young coaches now are the guys leading their team. So like, yeah, it's I'm worried about Perth. I'm very worried. And look, and you're right to be worried from the sense that Scott Drinkwater is likely not going to Perth. It's looking like he'll sign with the Dragons.
Matt Burton,
another one that the Bears were very keen on. Now, I'm aware that the Bears have approached the Dogs about Matt Burton in the past, and I believe there has been a lot of talk, especially in probably the last month. I've been told that they were keen on getting Matt Burton at the club should he not remain at the Dogs. But Danny Weiler reported on Sunday that Matt Burton is kicking off extension talks with the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. Both his management and the club, and obviously Matt Burton, want Burton staying at the Dogs long term, which is a very interesting one.
Yeah. What do you make of that? Because I read an article you did earlier in the year about the best young players coming through, and you had Mitchell Woods right up, I think, number two on your list. So what do you make of that then? Because what does that mean for Mitch Woods?
You've got to think that Matt Burton remaining at the club, he'd have to be moving positions, and it would have to be a reduced salary. I know that Burton loves the Bulldogs. You got to remember that this is a young kid he was a young kid when he signed with the club from out in the country, and the Dogs took a punt on him. Obviously, he was in that Penrith system, but when they signed him, Penrith weren't the powerhouse that they are now. And he came to the club as a 21-year-old, 22-year-old and was hailed as the Messiah of Belmore. And he's been there for the last, I think it's been 5 years now. He wants to remain at the Bulldogs. But you've got to imagine that he would be making the sacrifice to move positions, because Mitchell Woods is probably at the moment, he hasn't played this year yet. He's been injured. He's had a few hamstring injuries, but he is, if not the best halfback or best young halfback in rugby league, he's the second best, behind Kobe Black.
Yeah.
You've got Lachlan Galvin there, who is your half of the future, whether he's in 6 or 7, he's a half of the future. And Mitchell Woods is expected to be, his halves partner. So you've got to imagine that they're moving his position.
Have to be. Surely moving to the centres. And I guess then that probably means that Bronson Cherry will be surplus to requirements there. Who's the other centre? Nari Tuala played last week, but someone's injured at the moment. Stephen Crichton. Stephen Crichton's the other centre, obviously. So, and he's signed until 2031. So
we'll see. Stephen Crichton.
He ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
They'll get rid of the coach and the whole staff before they get rid of Stephen Crichton over there.
The other one I saw on your social page earlier today, Murray Taulagi.
Now this is going to come as, and I guess the Dragons have just been in conversations a lot over the last couple months, and one of the players that they have been after for quite a while, at least Dragons fans, is Murray Taulagi. But despite that, it sounds like he's actually been shopped to the Roosters.
Wow.
So Murray Taulagi, obviously Maroon star, Cowboy star, has been somewhat in limbo over the last 6 months in terms of his future in Townsville. And the Roosters have emerged as a potential option. Now, we spoke about on last week's potty about the Roosters being keen on bringing in Herbie Farnworth from 2028. But it looks like they are really trying to bolster these outside back spots with so many in limbo at the moment. You've got Marky Mark leaving this year, James Tedesco and Daniel Tupou both in the back end of their careers. Obviously, you got Ruben Garrick coming over there, but it seems like they would be keen to get Murray Taulagi over there.
Yeah, and Billy Smith can't stay healthy as well for them, because you think next year, like Tupou, we don't even know if he's going to play next year. No. At this stage, he could retire. He's still going so good though, Tupou. If I was him, I'd go another year.
I think he's got one more in him, but I think that's it.
Yeah,
I think he's got one more year in him, and which is why the Herbie Farnworth timeline for 2028 works perfectly.
Yeah.
I don't see him playing on into 2028.
I have a theory, and it leads into this next player we're going to talk about. Connor Watson, free to negotiate with rival clubs. I have a theory.
Talk to me.
That Joey Manu could be back at the Roosters as early as next year.
See, I saw that floated earlier this week. Was that you?
It might have been me. Yeah.
I saw this
alongside Luke Keary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I got so funnily enough, whenever any rumors anywhere, whether it's on the buy around, whether it's on the news, whether it's in an article, one of my followers will message me, "Is Joey Manu signing with the Roosters?" So thanks for that, Charlie.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I saw it this week, and I really, at first I said no, he's not going anywhere. But the more I think about it, the more that it would make sense. Obviously, from the Roosters would love to have him back. Now, I don't know. He's playing in Japanese rugby.
Yeah, I think it's French rugby at the moment.
French
so he was
rugby.
playing Japanese rugby.
Okay.
He's moved up. He's playing for Racing 92.
Racing 92.
And it's funny. So you go online and it says his contract is until 2027. So he's signed for next year as well. But then I speak to Luke Keary and he says no, he can come back as early as this season.
Okay,
so
interesting.
There's an interesting scenario where he could join them this season, or he could join them sort of halfway through next season. Because I don't know. I think he might be some sort of option or
Like
something that he's got. But basically, he could come this year.
Do you know when their season ends?
So it ends in like around June.
Time for finals.
Yeah, just in time for finals. It would be very Roosters to get him in, and even. I could see the Roosters doing something like, well, maybe they only get him for a few months and then he's able to go back to French rugby. And then maybe after that deal, he comes back. Like the Roosters have ways of manipulating situations.
Well, if anyone can do it, it's Nick Politis. And you're right that the whole prospect of Connor Watson leaving does open up the door for something massive to happen there. Now, you don't just get rid of a blue star if you're not going to get anything for it. Now, whether that's a Murray Tuolangi, a Joey Manu, or Herbie Farnworth, there's something definitely doing there.
Yeah.
And I know just from talking to people that Nick Politis is very busy at the moment in terms of recruitment. He wants to get someone in that club because as much as everyone heralded, or not heralded actually, it was a lot of controversy around it, but everyone was buzzing about this DCE signing last year. The fact of the matter is the Roosters aren't a premiership threat at the moment.
Yeah.
And the Roosters aren't used to that. They're used to bringing guys in and seeing, that level of success. And I think that Nick Politis is probably getting a little bit impatient and wants to really maximize on this window. And obviously on James Tedesco's last couple of years. So I wouldn't be surprised.
And it could be Nick Politis' last few years as chairman as well. He might want to transition away from the chairman role. So, I mean, he's in his mid-80s now. Like Nick flies. I know he looks fantastic. Botox does an incredible job.
He looks terrific.
All the fountain of youth, the life, the Bondi life, whatever it is. He looks incredible. But he's in his mid-80s. So how much longer does he want to be chairman for as well? And he wants to see obviously a few more premierships under his tenure. So time will tell. Final player one. Oh, actually, Connor Watson. Where do you think he'll go?
Manly is probably looming as the most likely now. The Perth Bears, another one. Manly are looming as the most likely. I believe they're keen on bringing him over either as a hooker or a lock.
Yep.
I'd probably get him over as a lock. I don't know about you. If you.
Yeah, it's a tough one. They haven't, at the moment, they're playing Brandon Wakeham there and Jake Simpson off the bench. So they have a need at dummy half. Connor Watson would be a big upgrade on those two guys. But
who's their lock now? Jake.
They're Jake Travojevic who's been playing lock, And they need a lot of help, Manly, in all honesty. I know they've won 2 games in a row, but they need a lot of help. Just
put
anywhere.
him at 6.
Exactly. Trey Fuller rejected the Dragons.
Yes, so and this will lead us well into our next segment, but unfortunately for Dragons fans, you won't be receiving Dolphins star Trey Fuller. And it's funny, I say star, he's not even playing regular first grade, but when he does, he's absolutely a star on the field.
Yeah.
He's electric. Now, it sounds like he was willing to go to the Dragons if they offered him another year on his deal. He's off contract at the end of this year. Now, I believe there was a little bit of reluctance there in terms of offering that to him. Now, that could have to do with Scott Drinkwater and the prospect of getting him over there. There's obviously a lot of, there's set to be a lot of roster reshuffles over there as well. So that's something to take note of. But Fuller has rejected the opportunity to make an immediate switch to the Dragons and will remain with the Dolphins this year.
It's very interesting. I think it tells me the Dragons have something up their sleeves. And if they end up not having something up their sleeves and missing out on Scott Drinkwater, then this is another example of the Dragons butchering a situation. So time will tell. I think someone like Trey Fuller, you maybe just get there and then figure it out next year. Yeah, if you bring Scott Drinkwater, Trey Fuller could be a great utility off the bench.
The only thing that I'm thinking is that perhaps they were going to pay overs for him, and that's why. I can't imagine, because I know Trey Fuller loves the Dolphins.
He does, yeah.
Now I'll
tell you something. So I know for a fact that the London Broncos went hard trying to get Trey Fuller, and they offered him big money.
Yeah, okay.
So a few £100,000 a year.
Yeah, okay.
To try and bring him over to London, and he didn't do it. So,
right.
So he loves being in that Redcliffe area, but when he's rejecting money like that, obviously now the writing is on the wall for him. He probably thought that he could stay and compete for that fullback spot, but it seems like they love Hammer there at the back now. But yeah,
and I keep looking to. I look at Trey Fuller the same way I look at Jai Gray. And I look at the transition that they've made with Jai Gray and Latrell going into the centers, and I always pictured that happening at the Dolphins as well. I don't know if I'm willing to go as far as saying that Trey Fuller is a better fullback than Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, but I do know that you're a better football side when you've got both of them in the starting lineup.
100%.
So their reluctance to make the call probably has a writing on the wall, because at the end of the day, you can't retain players like of his caliber and not play him in a starting position. So it makes sense for him to want to look elsewhere. Now you just got to imagine that he wants to blitz it for the last few months of this year and earn a big contract somewhere else.
Yeah.
If I'm the Bears, I'd be going
100%. He'd be a great player for that and brings excitement. That's what they
Absolutely.
need. Let's start digging into the Dragons then, because I know you got a lot you want to say, Isaac.
Yes. And I've actually said it every week. This is episode 4, I believe, of Footy in Focus. And every week I say the footy gods bless us with something. And they just keep doing it. I keep getting to a Friday and what are we going to talk about? And the footy gods drop it on us. This week, they've just brought us the Dragons dramas. And there's so much to unpack over there. Now, I put this together for ESPN over at the weekend, and we'll just do a quick breakdown of it now. Now, we got over the Scott Drinkwater stuff. Obviously, they have offered him a deal. He has yet to respond to it, and the Perth Bears are also looming. But amongst that as well, I'm hearing that Shane Flanagan, whose time at the club is very much uncertain, his future at the club, there is a possibility for him to be moved on from what I've heard. And that would open the doors for Dean Young to come in for that head coaching role. Now, it sounds like if Flanagan is removed from it is to depart the club, it'll be Dean Young to come in there for him.
It was interesting. Halftime of the game on Friday, Dean Young was doing the halftime address. Now that might be standard practice, but I was just looking at the vision of the coaches of the dressing sheds and saw that and thought that was interesting. And obviously, Dean Young, I know Craig Young's on the St. George's board, so I'm sure his dad's helping him out there getting this deal. But it's he's been the guy that's kind of loomed Dean Young, as the next head coach for a while. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. And it's interesting though that they're going to go with one of the assistants or at least if in an interim basis, given how bad the vibe is at the moment. Like I would have thought they would have brought a fresh voice in.
Well, it's funny because when I first got told this, I was like, yep, makes sense. Get Dean Young in there. He's obviously been around. And they have really tiptoed around bringing him in anyways as their head coach over the last few years. But seeing a lot of Dragons fans comments and stuff like that, they're all off it. Yeah. And they think that they do need a fresh voice in there. And the more I thought about it, the more I agreed. The things, whatever is going on over there is not working. Dean Young has obviously, he's not the catalyst for it, but he's been there and he does have an influence there, whether you like it or not, as an assistant. We just saw what happened with Ben Teo at the Broncos. Like an assistant plays a very key role in your club. And the fact of the matter is he's been there while they've been struggling. Yeah. So, it's an interesting one because obviously you've got guys like Brad Arthur on the market. There are a few others. Obviously, Willie Peters are now off the market with PNG floating up. Ivan Cleary's future is up in the air as well. I can't imagine him leaving Panthers.
Go from the Panthers to the Dragons. You're dreaming Dragons fans. It's kind of become a coaching graveyard though. The St. George Illawarra Dragons. Before Shane Flanagan, you had Griffin, who would never be considered for a head coaching role ever now. And before that, you had Mary McGregor, who would never be considered for a head coaching role now. So I don't think this is going to be the end of Shane Flanagan's coaching career. I think he'll probably end up getting another opportunity down the track, but time will tell. But it is a job that it leaves a mark on you. And it's not the coach's fault, all of this. Like, it sounds like they want to make some change though now. Like I know the chairman is very keen on cleaning out the entire, cleaning out the whole system, and I think the head of football could be in some trouble as well. Ben Haran, I think it is. Yeah. So
he's there's been a lot of chatter around him as well, which I'm glad you brought that up because Ben Haran has been there for a while now, and I'm hearing there's a lot of disgruntled people with the way that he's been handling things over the last while. But what I will say about Shane Flanagan is that while a lot of coaches are given unfair or sacked prematurely or given unfair raps for rosters that they didn't build, Shane Flanagan did build this roster. And there are certain decisions he's made, whether we agree with them or not. The fact of the matter is they're not getting results with the roster that he's built. you've obviously brought Damien Cook over there in the last couple of years of his career, Clint Gutherson, the last couple of years of his career. Kyle Flanagan has been your halfback for the last 2 years. Blake Laurie, I think Emre Gula and Josh Kerr were their starting front rowers this year. And they've got arguably the best young crop of forwards coming through.
Yeah.
You got Halangahu and Pacifici Tonga, who are both sitting in reserve grade.
Yeah.
This is the roster that Flanagan wanted.
Yeah.
And in the offseason, he absolutely hyped up these players. I actually had a chat to Flanagan in the offseason and did an interview with him, and he couldn't say enough about Emre Gula and Josh Kerr. And while that's all well and good, at the end of the day, these aren't premiership winning players. No.
It was a formula that worked for him with the Cronulla Sharks. It was bring a couple of old guys in and push them to the next level. But it worked because of the quality they had in that side. Like they had Ben Barber at the back playing fullback. They had James Maloney in at 5'8", who, I know he burnt bridges pretty much everywhere he went, but he's a star player.
Yes.
They had Andrew Fafita, they had Paul Gallen, they had all these great players, Wade Graham, they had like Luke Lewis, incredible roster. And they brought in those guys, like Luke Lewis was a really important buy for them. And yeah, he was a bit old at the time, but it works when you've got a great group around them. Like if you put Clint Gutherson at the Penrith Panthers, it probably goes well. But it doesn't work at the Dragons because there just was not enough quality there.
Well, they're almost trying to replicate as well the same identity as that Sharks outfit, but that Shark side doesn't win in 2026. It's just not the style of the game anymore. We're seeing now there are very few clubs who win the comp that have bought old players or even just bought players
100%
over the last decade.
Well, who's Penrith's best signing during this tenure? Isaiah Papali'i, maybe.
Yeah,
like that's probably it. Like everyone else has come from this system that they've built. Like they have not gone and bought anyone.
Yep.
Like even the Melbourne Storm, who have they bought that's made a huge impact? Stefano. And that's like probably the only like real marquee player they brought in or tried to anyway. Like you just don't see it.
Even the Brisbane Broncos, they brought Adam Reynolds in. That's an anomaly. But Reece Walsh was at the club, coming 100%. Through. Payne Haas was at the club coming through. Each and every one of their stars at the club was coming through. There's very few clubs who go out and buy play. Like the last club was probably the Sydney Roosters, and they haven't won for 7 years.
Yeah, 2019.
So, it's a formula that unfortunately is outdated in rugby league.
Yeah.
And it's a formula I'm glad is outdated in rugby league because I like seeing clubs invest in their young players and bring them through and really, take pride in their development and the juniors that they've got at their club. The Dragons are blessed to have one of the best crop of young players coming through. And unfortunately, they haven't capitalized on it.
No. And the elephant in the room is really Shane Flanagan's lack of desire to recruit halves or even promote the young halves. Like they had Jonah Glover in that system, who obviously he got injured in the trials.
Yeah.
But before he got injured in the trials, it was my understanding he was probably going to be the halfback in round one. So like, how can you let a guy like Jonah Glover leave? Who's then goes to a team like the Rabbitohs and is going to be their halfback
over Jamie Humphries.
Yeah. It just goes to show. I think Shane Flanagan intentionally didn't go after those players in order to protect Kyle's team position in the team, and that's the elephant in the room.
And it's unfortunate because if you think back to when Shane Flanagan first got there, and I believe he signed Kyle in his first year there, he said that he was coming over to play hooker.
Yeah,
he wasn't even. But 3 days ago, he said that he's the best halfback at the club.
Yeah.
So either you've recruited poorly and haven't followed your own game plan, or you are protecting your son's place in the side. Either is fine, but unfortunately, you're going to get the results that come with it.
If you had to make a guess on when they make a call on him, when is that?
Now, I'm going to cheat a little bit because I have heard a few things here and there.
Yeah.
I don't have the round in front of me, but I would say that when they've got their bye,
I think it's after Anzac Day, I'm pretty sure.
I'd say it'd be around then.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it?
So I don't know the exact round that is. I
got it here. So Anzac Day is round 8.
Okay, so round 9.
Round 9 they've got the bye.
I'd say Shane Flanagan's out before round 10.
Yeah,
I think that they'd probably take the week to reassess. I don't know who they've got over the next few games. I don't think it's pretty though.
They've got in obviously the Roosters traditional Anzac game round 8,
Yep.
and then in red they've got the Bunnies away round 7, and they're like nearly $5 outsiders in that game against the Bunnies. So
You know who else was $5 outsiders?
the bloody doggies.
The bloody Doggies. Unfortunately, though, the Dragons are not the Bulldogs. And it doesn't sound like he will be remaining at the club for much longer. Another Dragon that probably won't be remaining at the club much longer is actually a young player. Now, if you're someone who's, really into the young, the junior space, you'll know this name. But for a lot of rugby league fans, you might not, but you will soon. Jaseis Aki. He's a young half coming through at the Dragons, and I'd probably say he's one of the best young halves in the country. He's absolutely this is the type of, he's a blue chip prospect. He's young. And while the Dragons are very, very keen to keep him, I'm across the fact that they would want to retain him. I think they will struggle to. Yeah. Now, I reported for ESPN on Saturday that this week he will be entering the testing the market, and there are quite a few NRL clubs who are looming for his signature. Now, this is obviously a story in itself, but it also points to a broader aspect that we're seeing juniors now at the club want to look elsewhere because of the
smell around the club.
The smell around the club.
And Finau Latu, he left, didn't he?
Yes.
Was that last year? Maybe last year. He was meant to be their best Jersey flag player, and he went to the Dogs. That's if I'm a Dragons fan, and I'm hearing you say that, that's like the most heartbreaking part. Yeah, we've got this great pathway system and all these young players coming through, but if you can't hang on to them, it's pointless.
Well, I look at a club and I'm happy for far more educated people than me to talk about it, but the Melbourne Storm are a club that probably doesn't have the best junior pathway, but they are able to retain their talent. Unfortunately, the Dragons have a great junior pathway. They can't retain their talent. So this is going to be one to watch as well, but he is set to test the open market.
The Dragons, the gift that keeps on giving. Now, there's a couple other things we want to talk about today.
Yeah.
Some stuff. This has actually been my favorite part of the show when I've been tuning in is what you've learned from the week going to these clubs. So talk us through the Tigers transformations.
Yes. So I caught up with a few Tigers this week, and we had a chat about, the off season and how they've gotten to the point that they're at now. As of recording this, the Tigers just thumped the Newcastle Knights, obviously your moment of the week. I spoke to Royce Hunt, and he revealed that he lost over 10 kilos in the off-season due to this grueling off-season that pre-season that Benji Marshall's put them through. And he said that he's feeling probably the fittest he's ever felt. Now, we know he had some really good seasons over at the Sharks and came over in the last couple of years to the Tigers and has been hugely impactful off the bench. And then on the flip side, you've got Sunia Taruva, who revealed that he's actually put on a few kilos in the off season. In his words, eating lots of steaks and eggs to put on the weight, to adjust to playing in the centres at times, and also just being a little bit more, recovering a little bit better from contact as well. So he said that he's actually packed on the muscle again through Benji's grueling off season. So while the credits obviously to these two guys, again, it just points to this whole Benji ball philosophy that they've got going on in Concord.
You can see the difference in Royce Hunt. I was watching the Tigers Eels game and it was muted, and I saw this player just steam off of like a huge hit up.
Yeah.
I was like, who the hell is that?
That's Royce.
And then I was like, that's Royce Hunt. He looks incredible.
Yeah.
He's like, that's a huge transformation. So good on him. What else did you have from the week?
Our final little bit of, club mail this week. And it's an interesting one because, and you and I were both at the Parramatta Eels game today. You would have seen that Luca Moretti came off the bench, I believe, as the 18th man today. Yeah. But I spoke to him earlier in the week, and he revealed that his goal moving forward is to start in this side. He wants to be he's starting forward in this side, which is an interesting one because you hear a lot of players just kind of float around, I want to do my role for the side, whether it's off the bench. And you don't hear a lot of players really, strive for that starting role, at least publicly. But speaking to Luca, who surprised me with how, vocal he is, he revealed that he does want to start in this side. Obviously got Jaden Sua coming over there now, but in a side where I guess there is a lot of question marks, obviously with Jack DeBellin and Junior Bolo retiring soon. To hear a young guy, want to, grab that starting spot and retain it, I thought was very interesting to hear.
Yeah, that is fascinating. And starting in the middle, is that what he's thinking? Yeah, okay, interesting. He's a Waverley boy. Luke
Yeah,
Moretti.
you go.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right anyway. He's a Waverley boy because he played a lot of rugby union growing up.
Yeah, okay.
I know that much at least. But he only played 15 minutes on the weekend. So, but with all the injuries that they're having, he's going to get some time. And I think Junior Baller, he finished the game, but he did his knee early in the half, and then in the first half, and they strapped it up. He played through the game, but he did look a bit groggy throughout.
Well, we asked Jason Riles about it after the game, and he said, obviously, a player of his age, when he does feel a nickel, you need to kind of pay attention to it and focus on it. But he believes he'll be right for next week. But again, with this side at the moment, they've got so many injuries and so much bad luck. I think the injury totals are like 10 players now.
Yeah,
which
it's
is
massive. Well, and key position players like Yongi's out, Peasant's out. Yeah, it is grim. It's grim at the moment. Honestly, we weren't going to talk about Parramatta, but we probably should talk about Parramatta a little bit, because if you're a Para fan, you came in with all this confidence this year thinking you were going to be a top 8 side, and it was all based off that great run they went on. They were arguably the form team for the last 6-7 weeks of the season, but it has been a shocking start.
Yeah, I actually had them as a top 4 smoky this year.
Wow,
I was really big on them. Pezzett going over there, Mitchell Moses, going to another level. Jason Riles another year as the head coach of this side. There was just so many things going for this team. Obviously, the emergence of Iongi as well was a big one. Unfortunately, it hasn't gone their way. Now, while you'd point to injuries as a big factor in it, one thing that I noticed, especially today, and I'm happy to say it because Jason Riles also kind of echoed the sentiment, they don't seem to be playing with much vigor or spirit, at least as much as you'd expect them to, under Jason Riles and the way that they talk about how he's transformed the club and their culture and the vibe there. I'm not seeing that on the field. It's one thing to lose a game. It's another to have 50 put on you 3 times in a season. Now, 50 officially twice, but I think they conceded 48 points to the Penrith Panthers. So essentially have had 50 put on them 3 times. Dreadful. And have the worst points against in the opening 6 rounds.
Yeah, by some way as well. The next, so they've conceded 226 points already this season. The next closest is the Canberra Raiders on 182.
Yeah, it's like it's the defense over there is woeful. And while you obviously need your star players and star positions and all that kind of stuff, defense is an attitude, and it's a willingness to put your body on the line. And unfortunately, they're just, at least from my perspective, they're not bringing that level of enthusiasm that you probably would have hoped from a finals competing side this year.
Should we do a bit of an injury roundup from the weekend? Because there was a lot of injuries to some big names.
It's interesting. We've got a list here, and it's probably half the size of the list of last week's one, which is absolutely bizarre. Now, I'll just rattle these off because we do have quite a few here. Now, we'll start obviously with Jai Gray. He's suffered an AC injury. He failed to finish his match against the Canberra Raiders on the weekend. The club is yet to reveal how long he will be out. But what we've noticed with AC joint injuries, especially like Stephen Crichton had one last week, it's hard to put a strict timeline on it.
I did mine over the off season.
Oh, really?
Bowling in the cricket nets.
Right.
Just pulled up, just my shoulder popped.
And how long did it take you to?
It's still not quite right.
Yeah.
It felt good. And then I woke up one day and it was all stiff. So I know exactly what you're going through, Jai Gray. Just trust me. Call me if you need any help or advice.
We've got Moses Sully, who did his eye socket. Charlie, any?
No experience in broken eye sockets. No,
I can't say I have either. Eye socket injury. Again, club hasn't revealed, and a lot of these the clubs haven't revealed yet how long they will be out. But his eye did look pretty bad in their loss to Manly on the weekend.
He finished the game though, didn't he? Yeah, right. Good on him. Tough kid.
Tough bugger. But I don't expect to see him for a couple of weeks at least. Blake Moser, broken jaw. He'll be out for a while. Just a tough go for him. And obviously for the Broncos as well, they've got their own injury concerns over there. So he's going to be out for a little bit. Obviously, puts a strain on their depth there as well. Another one. Did you see Jake Trebojevich's eye?
I did. That was intense.
Yeah.
So he passed the HIIT, didn't he? But it was the cut on the eye ruled him out. Because I saw his eye basically was closed up. It was like when a boxer gets ruled out for a fight because of a cut.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was. And I believe it was a similar type of injury as well. Now, the club is yet to say how long he will be out. If he is out at all, like it could be a chance if he just comes back next week. It might be one of those things that it looked worse than what it was. But he genuinely couldn't see out of that eye.
Yeah, it looked painful.
Another painful injury. Max King has fractured his jaw. I believe he'll be out for about a month for the Bulldogs. Now he played on with a fractured jaw in that match, which, so we're talking about tough buggers. Like that's absolutely insane. I get a toothache and I'm just no one's allowed to speak to me for a week. But he's fractured his jaw and he's out for a month. But they'll hopefully get Leo Thompson back next week. So
oh, cool. That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
They should get Leo Thompson back next week, if not the week
I'm so
after.
pumped to see Leo Thompson in Dogs colours.
Me too.
Yeah.
And I think from talking to Seraldo and a few of the boys around there, they all are absolutely, like, they've loved his presence at the club. He's been a real big leader, actually, a vocal leader at training. So that's an interesting one there. Speaking of leaders at, good clubs, Liam Martin has done his knee. He's going to be out for a few weeks as well. Xavier Savage is going to be out for a bit more than a few weeks. He's going to be out for 8 weeks with a syndesmosis injury. And Jesse Ramian is going to be out for 2 to 4 weeks with an MCL sprain. So
big losses.
A lot of losses over there. And look, it's genuinely concerning how many injuries we've got. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but this is going to be one of the most injury-impacted starts to the season we've had in quite some time. It's been absolutely insane for these players.
100%. It's got to... I don't have the stats either here, so I don't want to say too much, but it has to be some sort of an impact because of the speeding up of the game, the 6 again.
Yeah.
I mean, we could almost talk about those bloody... the disruptors from this weekend. Like, my goodness, at least the NRL's come out and admitted they were wrong.
They were wrong.
Like, thankfully, because it was so hard to watch.
Well, I pose a question to you because we've seen the NRL on occasion come out and admit fault on certain things, but I ask, is that enough for, I guess, a fan of the game or even for the players and the coaches? But is the NRL coming out and apologizing enough to just say, okay, cool, like we'll move on, or do you?
I think it would be worse if, say, the Cowboys had lost that game and, say, the Roosters had lost that game. Like, thankfully, the two teams that they said the calls were wrong, they both won the game.
Do you think they would have admitted fault if it was the other way around?
Probably not. Probably not. That's a really good point.
You know what I mean?
Probably
Like,
not.
I think that it probably lessens the blow so they can come out, because
100%.
then if something happens in the future, they can say, oh, well, we do admit fault when we're wrong.
Yeah.
So
it was a real power move from Trent Robinson because in his press conference, he basically told the NRL they would be apologising. If you watch his press conference, he goes, I'm sure we'll get the NRL come out and say that was the wrong decision tomorrow and apologise for that. And they did. So,
Trent Robinson has been around the game long enough to know. Now, moving on to probably a little bit of a shorter list. We've got our suspension news for the week. I feel so bad for the Broncos. We're talking about the Eels who have so many players out. The Broncos probably have close to as many players out. It looks like they're going to be without Paddy Carrigan for a couple weeks. So he had a careless high tackle on, I believe it was Tom Chester, in his clash against the Cowboys, in which they lost by 4 points, I think it was. And so he hit him with a high tackle, and the incident was classed as a grade 2 offence. So he's looking at 2 matches out.
That's big. That's a huge loss because the Broncos play the Tigers next week at Campbelltown.
Yeah, wow.
So, and it's not panic stations yet for the Broncos, but they are now 3 wins, 3 losses, and they're sitting in 11th place. So the issue for the Broncos is if they say lose the next few weeks, then we get close to Origin, and then they're going to lose half their team to Origin. It becomes a little bit of a concern for Broncos fans.
Well, I look at where they were at last year, and they were probably in a similar position last year, but the issue is that they don't have their star players at the moment. Whereas a year ago they did. They just had some teething issues, obviously, with Michael Maguire. They don't have Reece Walsh back for a while. They don't have Ben Hunt back for a while. Adam Reynolds is obviously in and out, and he's struggling with his groin at the moment. Now you lose Paddy Carrigan, your captain without Adam Reynolds there for a couple of weeks. That's putting a lot of pressure on a guy like Payne Haas, who I believe he had his own injury a couple of weeks ago as well.
Yeah.
So you're putting a lot of pressure on there. Now, one thing I do, I guess, it's not a silver lining from injuries, but I do like to see young players getting their opportunity. Obviously, had Tom Duffy come in, who did a job for them in that halfback role as well. But again, it doesn't cover the loss of what, like for example, Paddy Carrigan would take out from their side.
Question of the week. What have you got for us?
So, I had a thing. So we got a lot of questions this week, and so I wanted one that I wanted to get your thoughts on. So we'll pose the question to you. Let me get it up here. Okay, if the season ended today, who would win Coach of the Year?
It's a great question. Well, I think it's got to be either Andrew Webster or Benji Marshall, and I'm going to go Benji Marshall.
Really?
I mean, I've already hyped him up deluxe.
Okay.
I think you've got to go Benji Marshall. Where they are at the moment, they're sitting second on the ladder. I think 4 wins, 1 defeat, and the bye. And they've beaten some decent teams. The Knights have been a good. You have to count them as a good team this year. So I think you've got to give it to Benji Marshall. You've got to give it to the Benji Ball Award, we should call it, because I'll go with him for sure. Who would you go with?
Is it too premature to say Kieran Foran? No.
Best interim coach of the year.
Well, he's the only coach with a 100% success rate at the moment.
True.
I can't go past Ivan Cleary. I know they obviously just lost to the Dogs, and you can almost give it to Cameron Ciraldo for that, for downing Penrith. But I can't go past Ivan Cleary and what he's been able to do with this side this year. To take a 4-time premiership winning side and make them even better is just absolutely wild. But I've probably got Benji behind. I want to throw one also to Justin Holbrook as well.
Oh, definitely.
Who's been huge for the Knights. So those were probably my 3 that would be in the mix, but I've just got to give it to Ivan Cleary.
So the West Tigers, here's some of their wins. They've beaten the New Zealand Warriors, who sit in 3rd place.
Yep.
They've beaten the North Queensland Cowboys, who currently sit in 4th place. And they've beaten the Newcastle Knights, who sit in 6th place. So, and their other win was against Parramatta. So they've beaten 3 of the top 6
to be fair,
teams.
Knights were 3rd when they beat them.
Correct, yeah. So they've beaten 3 teams that have had good starts this season. So the Tigers are the giant killers at the moment. It's great to see.
And they're about to, and if you listen to Charlie's prediction, they'll be the Giants by the end of the year.
Exactly, guarantee it.
But I think that's it from us
Beautiful,
today.
mate, beautiful. Thanks for having me.
Mate, thank you for filling in. For those of you who missed Kat this week, we will have her back next week. But we'll try to get Charlie in and around in the mix again very soon.
For sure.
But yeah, thank you for coming on, man.
Anytime, man. Good to be here.
Sweet.